When studying the Psalms, my wife and I believe it's a good and accurate approach to consider the very real reality that the Psalms are most often about two individuals, the writer and God. David is called a man after God's own heart. That word for after in the New Testament, anyway, has many definitions. One means pertaining to or touching. I used to hear it in religious circles as meaning David was like God in some way, and I don't think that's accurate at all. David is after God's heart. He is seeking after God's heart. He wants to know God. His passion is for God. It's all about that relationship, about getting to know this God. And that said, I want to look at Psalm 3 here, verse by verse, and break it down and break down some of the words that are in there, their Hebrew meaning, and reading from the New King James, starting in verse 1. It says a Psalm of David when he fled from Absalom, his son. So you can see David would feel very alone. His own son wants to kill him. His own son has won the hearts of the people. So this is not about strength in numbers by any means. In fact, it's the exact opposite. It's strength in the only one any of us can ultimately trust. And so that's what David is talking about here. So he says, Lord, how they have increased who trouble me. Many are they who rise up against me. And that word increased and many, those are two words that are related, directly related to each other. The one that says many is a contraction of the one that says increase, and that's kind of a theme of this. And either or, the many versus the one is very specific, because God does want that same thing for you, for all of us, for all who would seek him. He wants to have that one individual to another individual relationship. And David illustrates this through his passion in seeking his God in comparison to the great numbers that have increased against him. In verse 2, many are they who say of me, there is no help for him in God. In the King James it says, many there be which say of my soul, there is no help for him in God. Again, that word many, same as the previous many, that is related to the word for they have increased. So he's emphasizing something. He's emphasizing his aloneness, and that he's going to get to the point that it doesn't matter, even though he's overwhelmed. All these numbers, these great multiplying, increasing numbers are against him, and they're saying everything against him. There's no help for him, and they condemn him before his God and say his God won't even be there for him. So in verse 3 he says, but you, O Lord, are a shield for me, my glory, and the one who lifts up my head. The one. And he says, but you. It says, but thou in the King James. Either way, that's a very emphatic one. You, ye, thee, thou. It's an individual he's talking about. It's his God. And he juxtaposes that by saying, but you. Because the many are against him, but there's one who is for him, and that's his Lord. And of course, the Lord, the meaning of that is self-existent. It doesn't even say self-existent one, the self-existent. There can only be one who is the self-existent, and that's the one that David is calling upon here. He knows who his shield is. It's not the many, it's not the increasing. Let me read that again. But you, O Lord, are a shield for me, my glory, and the one who lifts up my head. There's only one who can do that, even when people are on your side. There's only one who is your glory, and he shares his glory with no other than that you would stand in his glory. Verse 4, I cried to the Lord with my voice, and he heard me from his holy hill, Selah. He, again, very in fact, he's talking to one person. He's crying out to one person. I cried to the self-existent with my voice, and he heard me from his holy hill, his one God. Verse 5, I lay down and slept. I awoke, for the Lord sustained me. Again, I ask you to consider and see this. He is putting things side by side, the many versus the one. He was in this trouble. Everyone's against him. They even deny his help from the Lord. But he says, I lay down and slept. I awoke, for the Lord sustained me. Who else can sustain you but the Lord? Again, even if all those people were on David's side, they could not help him. It's dramatic because they are against him, and he's in this moment. And it's in these moments where you can see how personal your God is to you, how he and he alone is the one who sustains you. It's more emphasized when these things are happening, but it's true all the time, even when things are not going bad. Verse 6, I will not be afraid of 10,000s of people who have set themselves against me all around. See that? Again, he goes to the number, and again, it's that same number he used, or it's related to that same word. This word, 10,000s, is related to the previous words where it says increase and many and many. It's in that same base word. It comes from the same one. So he says, I will not be afraid of 10,000s of people who have set themselves against me all around. And he means it. He means it. He's not afraid. Doesn't mean he's not distressed. Doesn't mean he's not excited or upset. And the reason why he's excited is because he knows he can still trust in his one true God. His one true God is greater than all of this, than all of the thousands, the 10,000s, all the ones doing and saying evil against him. Verse 7, arise, O Lord, save me, O my God, for you have struck all my enemies on the cheekbone. You have broken the teeth of the ungodly. So here he reveals that he has a track record. David has been around before. There's a reason for his faith, for his courage, for his strength, because the Lord has already done this. Doesn't mean you take the Lord for granted. You don't take him for granted. David did not take the Lord for granted. He still cried out for help. He said, save me. Why? Because you have struck my enemies on the cheekbone. You have broken the teeth of the ungodly. You've already done this. I know this about you. You're my God. You're my Lord. You're my help. You're my Savior, my salvation. And so he finishes it that way. Salvation belongs to the Lord. Your blessing is upon your people. Selah. And that word for salvation, the exact same word he used in verse 2. When they said, those 10,000s, those many, those increasing ones, said there's no help for him. Said there's no salvation for him in God. That's what they said. David never lost his strength, never lost his confidence, at least not in this moment, because he knew where his salvation comes from. It belongs to the Lord himself, the one Savior, the one and only Savior, beside whom is no Savior, our one and only God, Jesus. In Jesus' name.